As many of you saw last night, Tesla finally, about 6 months late, started deliveries of the Plaid Model S with a delivery event for the lucky few. Maybe next time it'll be for me. While it was a bit of an awkward event and some people have already claimed it was a disappointment, the geek in me actually found it pretty darn exciting. It's not every day the tiny details take center stage, but this time they did. Let's take a look. Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. So first let's start with a couple of elephants in the room. Number one, Elon was really off his game. He seemed like he just arrived from someplace else and was very distracted. Certainly he was no Steve Jobs last night. It wasn't slick like an Apple presentation and it left many people disappointed.
Some of you may know that, basically our product plan is stolen from Spaceballs. So we've gone Plaid speed. So yes, pressing slide. There we go. All right.
Also, if you watched it, I'm sure you noticed that there was nothing said about the Plaid Plus cancellation, nor the price increase to the Plaid, which is $10,000, which is a significant amount. But enough about the complaining. What did we learn last night? Well, let's start with a few things that we already knew, but it got reinforced, I guess. Number one is it's all about no input. Elon Musk said that several times, and by the way, of course I had to have that shirt today. Sorry about the microphone that's blocking off the all part, but anyway. So clearly Elon Musk was very strongly, or Tesla or whoever wrote the script, was very strongly about all input is error.
And then we've gotten rid of the stalks. So, I think generally all input is error. So we want, if you have to do something that the car could have done already, that should be taken care of. The software should just do it.
Of course, as Tesla stated a long time ago, the entire system is based on a shifterless system, and yes, they are going with a yoke instead of with a steering wheel. It looks like they got approval for that, so that's good, I guess.
We have this yoke steering wheel, which is a little different, but I think once you try it, you'll think it's great. The visibility of the main screen is super clear, especially for autopilot, so you can see the entire panoramic view you can basically see the mind's eye of the car.
But anyway, the shifterless system, as we might have guessed, learns where you are and geofences as well as simply guessing. So basically, if you park in your garage head first every day, the car is going to know that. So it's going to know you're in your garage head first. It needs to go into reverse when you get in there. Additionally, of course, if you back in when you're going to work so that you're always facing out when you go to work, the car is going to know to go forward when you get into the car and probably route you home as well. And if you go to the gym or the grocery store and you tend to park in a similar parking spot each time, and maybe you always pull through so that you're facing outward, I don't know. I tend to like to do that if I can. Then it's going to know to automatically go into drive. So it's not only going to simply guess by looking around, which is what we all knew before, but it's also going to learn based on where you are, which direction you're likely to go. And speaking of geofencing, it's also likely to learn where you're about to go next, right? So again, if you're at the gym and you always go to work after the gym or something, it's going to automatically route you to work after you go to the gym. So you get out of the gym, right? You take a shower, whatever. you open up the car door, and by the way, it sounds really cool. It sounds like as you approach the car, sort of like the Model X right now. I don't know if the current Model S does that or not, or the old Model S now. But anyway, as you approach the thing, it'll actually present the handle to you, so it'll be really easy. No, pushing buttons, no waiting or anything like that.
It senses that you're approaching, unlocks the car based on your phone. It just basically pairs with your phone, knows that you're coming to the car, opens the door, extends the handle, you sit down, and you just drive. You don't have to press the drive or anything like that. The car knows you want to drive. It figures yeah, good guess.
But also as you get in the car, depending on where you are, what time of day it is, etc., the computer is going to learn what you're likely to do next, and it's going to auto-route you there. And all of this will become much more cool after the full self-driving takes over and you don't have to drive it. And by the way, there was literally zero said about Full Self-Driving 9 last night, which was a huge disappointment for me. I don't know how many other people have noticed that. I haven't really seen it. Again, I've only been able to watch a little scattering. It's early in the morning here where I'm recording this. I just couldn't stay up late enough my time in the East Coast of the United States to do one last night. But I'm actually glad I didn't, because I learned a few extra things by kind of scouting around this morning and seeing what the lie of the land was. But anyway, nobody's really talking about that. But Full Self-Driving 9 was kind of left in the dust, and I really thought there was going to be some sort of announcement, or at least they were going to talk about how FSD 9.0 worked with the Model S and eventually the Model X and the Model 3 and the Model Y, etc. But that was really left out, and that was a big disappointment for me. But in any case, right now, as you're driving, it will auto route you to where you're likely to go. Or interestingly enough, you can also drag down to auto navigate to likely destinations. So if it doesn't do it for you as you get there, you just swipe down the screen and it will automatically say like, oh, you're probably going to want to go to the grocery store next because it's Wednesday and you always go to the grocery store. I don't know.
But obviously, it also interfaces with your calendar. So if you just, basically, if you just get in the car and you just sort of swipe down from navigate, you don't have to enter anything, just swipe down. The car will automatically figure out if you want to go to home, work, or what's on your calendar. So it'll default to calendar priority. And obviously, if you're at home and it's kind of a weekday or whatever, it assumes you're going to go to work. So you just swipe down, automatically navigates to work, and checks traffic and gives you an optimal route. So it's just like a nice little easy thing. And you can actually set it to automatically generate the most probable route. So you just get in, and it's going to guess what route you want, and you don't have to press anything.
But it will take a guess, and so whatever you do first, you just swipe down. There's only, not even a click. It's just one swipe, and it will take you there. I would think that would probably come in the most useful going home, because rather than having to press a few buttons to get to the home thing and navigate there, it would just be automatic. But I don't know, I'm pretty scheduled. My life tends to be pretty regular, and so I have a feeling that it would start to guess where I was going to go next also. And again, this is in the Model S right now. One hopes that all of this stuff will trickle down to the Model Y and other models eventually as well. So enough about navigation. What about performance? Well, interestingly enough, in my mind, and I've said this many times on this channel, engineering is all about trade-offs. You have time, people, and money, and you can never do all the things you want to do with the amount of time, people, and money you have. But interestingly enough, it really seems like they've kind of bent the laws of engineering, because the Plaid has very few trade-offs, really, except maybe the expense. But really, even the expense is really, really low compared to hypercars and things like that cost millions of dollars as opposed to just over $100,000. So certainly, I can't afford a Model S Plaid, but for people who might otherwise spend $250,000 or $2 million or something like that, you've got a 5-seat sedan with 4 doors, which is very comfortable. It's got a lot of really nice amenities on the interior, but it's also ultra fast, accelerates ultra quickly, and according to Elon, they're hoping it will be the safest car ever built.
And then it's also engineered for maximum safety as well. So in fact, this is designed to be our aspiration for this car. It still has to be tested by the US government, but we think we can get the lowest probability of injury of any car ever tested. In fact, these are the actual NHTSA probability of injuries numbers. All top 5 cars with the lowest probability of injuries ever tested, all 5 are Teslas.
And that's pretty remarkable when you can combine all of those things into one vehicle. So I've got to give them credit for that. That's an amazing achievement. So let's talk some specifics. Number one, they have a giant heat pump, and that is pretty remarkable. If you look at the size of this thing, it's huge. It's specifically built so that you can do multiple track runs together, right? So the 0 to 200 miles an hour or whatever you want to do, or the quarter mile on a track or something, that generates a huge amount of heat, right? You just go like, and the batteries spit out a lot of electrons to get this thing going very, very quickly, and they heat up, and the heat pump has got to get rid of all of that stuff. Of course, it also keeps people in the cabin comfortable, etc. But if you think about like the Nürburgring or something, the car is accelerating and decelerating very, very rapidly, so it's got to shed heat quickly. So anyway, it looks like they built a really, really monstrously large heat pump, and it's very, very efficient, so that's super cool. Also, their motor cylinders apparently are carbon overwrapped now, and that sounds like what? But it sounds like it's an amazingly complicated thing to do, because Elon Musk said that the heat properties, the heat expansion properties of copper and carbon are very, very different, and it's hard to marry them. But basically, he was saying that carbon overwrapping these things allows them to literally hang together as the number of RPMs increases very, very rapidly.
And then something we're really proud of is the new carbon sleeved rotors for the motor. So this is the first time that there's, to the best of our knowledge, there's been a production electric motor that has a carbon overwrap rotor. This is a super hard thing to do, because carbon and copper have you know, at very different rates of thermal expansion. So in order to do a carbon overwrapped rotor, you've got to wind it at extremely high tension. It's a very hard thing to do. We actually had to design the machine that makes the rotor. So no such machine existed before. It also means we can have the electromagnetic field be super efficient and have a tight gap even at super high RPM. And it's single speed from 0 to 200 miles an hour. So it's just, the RPM is so crazy that just the centrifugal force wants to expand the rotor. So the carbon overwrap actually holds the rotor, basically holds the rotor together. It's like madness. I mean, you can pick this motor up with your hands, and it can accelerate a 2-ton car to 60 miles an hour in 2 seconds. It goes up to 20,000 RPM and maybe a little more.
And speaking of that, the car goes 0 to 200 miles per hour with no gearing. So basically it's a direct linkage between the wheels and the motor for the entire time. There's no gear shifting, no nothing. And that's 0 to 20,000 plus RPMs. And so literally the cylinders are spinning so rapidly that they would fall apart if they weren't carbon overwrapped. And also Elon Musk said that there's some really cool stuff with the magnetic field inside, and they've done a lot of work on that as well. So the motors themselves, all on their own, seem like works of genius. Also something that Elon Musk didn't say, but one of the Tesla employees mentioned in a video that I saw of people who actually got to drive the Model S Plaid. Good for them, lucky them, right? But the car apparently crouches for better road traction. So basically what that means is you've got the car here, and when you go into like Plaid mode or whatever, and by the way, the screen looks so cool in Plaid mode, as you accelerate, the instrument cluster actually goes Plaid, and that's just super cool. I gotta say the UI engineers outdid themselves for that. But anyway, so the car is like this, and what it does is it lowers the front end as it knows you're about to accelerate and go crazy. And what that does, because what's going to happen, right, as you accelerate, you've got 2 motors in the back and 1 in the front. So there's a huge amount of thrust in the back. So the tendency, if you've ever seen those dragsters, right, they have really, really long fronts on them in order to keep the front from rising up in the air too quickly. And they still do sometimes if you accelerate too hard. But basically, so what the car does is it lowers like this, and then it gives you more force, more traction on the wheels the entire time. And that is pretty darn cool.
Okay, so this is cheetah mode where what happens? The front goes down?
Yeah, so the front settles down and then holds itself down, so you get continuous front.
All right, keep your heads back, guys.
And speaking of that, the S Plaid actually has over 1,000 horsepower that we knew, but if you look at the power band graph, it's incredible. It stays up at that 1,000 horsepower almost the entire time, up to 200 miles per hour, and that is remarkable. Most horsepower ratings, especially for a gas car, they go like this. It's like a peak, and that's why you have to keep gear shifting all the time, because there's just a tiny little band where that horsepower is that high. But this thing is incredible. Once it gets up to that horsepower, it stays at that horsepower all the way up to 200 miles per hour.
So I think this really illustrates the difference. It maintains 1,000 horsepower all the way up to 200 miles an hour. This car crushes.
Also, the Plaid has a CD, or coefficient of drag, of 0.208, which according to Elon Musk is the lowest of any production car on the planet, and maybe any car on the planet. I don't know. I don't know if the hypercars have lower than that. He said the lowest in the world, so I guess it's the lowest of all of them. I would definitely say it's the lowest of any production car.
We also were able to achieve the lowest drag coefficient of any car ever made, and this is the true drag coefficient of the car, including with wheels in motion. Sometimes you'll hear drag coefficients quoted, but that'll be without the wheels moving. And the wheels cause sort of air churn and incremental drag. And this is the actual drag coefficient of the car.
So overall, it really does seem like Tesla has not only bent the laws of engineering, but they've also bent the laws of physics to make this car possible. It's incredible the number of different things they've been able to do. Things that are like, you know, safety and high speed and single gearing and very, very high RPMs. All of those kind of things are like, you know, polar opposites. So to be able to do both of these things and keep the car at a reasonable cost is pretty incredible.
This thing's moving. I mean, this is like what I call like limit of physics engineering. It's not relative. It's like, what does physics say we can do? Because physics is the law and everything else is a recommendation. It is basically, what is the car that we can, how can we make a spaceship a car, you know?
Another cool thing that Elon mentioned was that there's going to be above 250 kilowatt charging, probably at the next generation superchargers.
Keep increasing the power of the superchargers. we're 250 kilowatts. So obviously that we'll start going to 280, 300, 350. Yeah.
It was kind of an aside that he said, so it was unclear exactly what he meant, but it sounds like new superchargers that are going to come out later will support above 250 kilowatt charging. And a lot of people say that's not that useful because the charging always tails off as the batteries get full. But if you think about it, if you come in at 10%, you really care about probably 10 to 50 or 60%, at which point that 350 kilowatts can charge a lot faster. 250 does the Model Y at about 1,000 miles per hour charging rate at the fastest speed. So I don't know what this could get up to. It could get up to 1,300 or 1,400 miles per hour at the fastest charging rate. So that really will allow it to charge much, much faster. And that's a really cool thing. It was just an aside. We don't have any details yet, but it'll be interesting to watch that space and see what happens with that. All right, on to the interior. First of all, the sound system. As a sound guy, I love this. The sound system is not only the best, but it also adapts and continuously gets better. In other words, it's listening around it all the time. It's working to try to make the audio as good as possible. Elon said if the bit rate in a streaming thing drops, so you're listening to Spotify and you go through a bad area, so the bit rate drops, it will actually compensate for that to keep the music consistently good, so you won't notice drops in quality of music and everything.
We have an all-new sound system designed by Tesla Audio, and we have acoustic glass throughout the car, so the car is very quiet when going down the highway. Even at very high speeds, like you're doing 100 miles an hour, it's still quiet. This is a Tesla-designed codec, so it will keep uploading improved versions of the sound system. It's completely software-defined, so we'll keep tweaking it and dynamically adjusting to whether you're using streaming or whether it's coming via Bluetooth from your phone or different streaming services. It'll actually, and if the data rate changes, it'll adapt that. So basically, it always sounds good. And that's just going to get better.
So as a sound guy, really, I'm very appreciative of that. Thank you. I really don't think enough auto manufacturers really give enough time and effort thinking about the sound systems. Also, as one might expect from the PS5 level processing power, AAA games will be able to be played at 60 frames per second, which is pretty darn good for a car. Additionally, there are not just 2, but 4 wireless chargers. So there's 2 in the front and 2 in the back, and that's really cool. The 17-inch screen is highly customizable, so you can drag and drop things around the screen. The response time looks amazing. I have to say, in my Model Y, the screen is very, very sluggish. It's okay because it's just a car interface, but it's definitely not something where I'm like, wow, this thing is slick. But from video of people actually using the interface in the Model S, it's clearly much, much faster and much smoother, so that's really cool. And of course, the games look fantastic on it, playing at 60 frames per second.
And then we've got an all-new UI. And then the 17-inch touchscreen it feels like a movie theater. The sound is incredible. So anyway, the UI is basically easy to move around, expand, contract, shift music to the left, to the right, and we're going to keep improving it. So it basically feels like a modern tablet or phone. It can play Cyberpunk. So this is somebody playing the car right now. This is playing live.
So what did we get? Well, we got the safest and the fastest and the lowest coefficient of drag car on the planet. That's a pretty amazing feat. So congratulations to Tesla's entire team for that achievement. And what didn't we get? Well, we didn't get Full Self-Driving 9 update, which sucked, and we got no other surprises at all, which was really unfortunate as well. So I was kind of hoping for something about the Roadster or something about Full Self-Driving 9, but oh well. Hopefully Elon will tweet about that in the next couple of days to make up for that. All right, I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it fun and interesting. If you did, definitely like it so other people can find it. And if you like this kind of stuff, consider subscribing as well. Thank you. As always, a huge shout out to my patrons on Patreon. You all are wonderful. I really appreciate the support. Thank you all so much. And for those of you interested in investing, check out Webull, an amazing platform for buying and selling stocks, and now cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Dogecoin, and others. Open an account and get a free stock valued at up to $200, or $300 until June 17th, and fund your account and get another free stock valued at up to $1,600. or $2,000 until June 17th. Check out the link in the description and help the channel at the same time. Thank you. And of course, don't forget about our merch store, which has awesome t-shirts like Tesla Rockets for the People, Don't Mess with Tesla, other t-shirts, tumblers, mugs, etc. So check out the link in the description. And finally, don't forget we are both Tesla and Amazon affiliates. If you look in the description, you can see how clicking a link and going shopping helps the channel, including going shopping for Tesla solar and power walls, as well as Tesla vehicles. So definitely look in the description if you're interested in that. And in the meantime, please feel free to ask me questions in the comments or at my email address, which is drknowitallknows@gmail.com. Till next time, bye-bye.